We are
Where'd it
live
go?
right
Where'd Asher go?
now. Finally. Oh my goodness. All right. We are live, I believe, on YouTube.
Hi guys. Welcome to my
Yes.
channel.
Hold on. We
Welcome to my
finally got it.
channel. We all have to say it. Welcome to my channel.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We are good on YouTube, I believe. And we
I
are about
am.
to be live on IG.
We are live
Oh,
on the
finally.
Instagram.
Live on
Oh,
the Instagram.
Wagwan.
yo. The
Yay.
way this took so long. Oh my goodness.
It's mad
Welcome
delayed too.
everybody.
Like I'm watching myself. I'm sorry.
It is. No, so that happens typically with streaming where you're like a good 10, 15 seconds. They're watching 10, 15 seconds behind. So like it is all good. One, I want to say hello to y'all. I'm so excited for this. Y'all have no idea. This has been something that we've like individually been talking about, hearing each other talk about for months, and to like now be able to have this conversation is absolutely wonderful. I'm gonna say hello to everybody in the chat. How are y'all doing? This is going to be a conversation about Toni Morrison and her connection to speculative writing and where we all sit with this, because we all do have varying points about this. So let's start with introducing everybody, getting to know who everybody is. We're going to start above me. I think, yep, we're going to start above me. We're going to go Raven, Erica, Shy, and then I'll introduce myself. Raven, take the floor. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, hello. I'm Raven Stringfield. I am a scholar, novelist, editor, artist. So my PhD is in American Studies from William and Mary. While I was more actively doing research, I was focusing on Black women and girls in fantasy new media narratives. And so I was thinking about Toni Morrison and um, how she helped me think about Black girl self-making, right? And like how we imagine ourselves. And so that's kind of how I was using her. I think a little bit more, it's funny, like I think actually leaving the academy, I think more expansively about her than I did when I was working pretty seriously as an academic. And then now I write young adult novels, and most of my time I'm working as an editor at Midnight and Indigo, a literary magazine that focuses on literature for Black women of the African diaspora. So that's me.
Yes. Erica? Can you hear us, babe? All right, while we wait for that, we'll go with Shy.
All right. My name is Shaheen Williams. What am I? A lot of things. I am an art digitizer. I digitize the collection at CAU Art Museum. I'm a PhD candidate. I am currently writing my dissertation on Beloved by Toni Morrison, juxtaposing it with Leslie Penelope's The Monsters We Defy. I'm most interested in the ways that the speculative shows up within the Black quotidian. So thinking about like naturalizing speculative fiction. I study Southern Gothic literature. I also look at the similarities between Afro diasporic literature in general, specifically between the Americas and the Caribbean, as someone who's descended from both peoples. Um, yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
I love how y'all just like are so intelligent and so academic and just have all the words to say what you do.
You're here, right there. Wait, no, right here.
Erica, babe, how about you?
I'm so sorry. I had to step away for a second. I apologize.
Oh,
So
good.
if you could repeat that, I greatly appreciate
Who
it.
are you and what do you do?
Okay. My name is Erica. I'm a disgruntled journalist. I'm an advocate
Fantastic.
for diverse literature. Um, I'm from Chicago. I have been champion for, Black speculative fiction and Afrofuturism for several years. And I moderate at the Schomburg for their literary programming. I've been doing that for almost 10 years. And recently I was told I'm a public scholar now. So that's where I guess I'm at.
You absolutely are. I just want to say y'all are some of my smartest, most amazing friends, and I thoroughly appreciate y'all for being here. For those who do not know, hi, my name is Keisha. I am the blogger creator behind the Blurred Library. I mostly talk about speculative fiction in comics and books and how we can use that to reimagine our world. Liberation literature, if you will. So let's get down to this. Once again, we're here to talk about Toni Morrison and her connections to speculative fiction. And to be honest, um, this came because during the podcast Pink Riot Comic Show, I had yelled at one of the end of the shows that Toni Morrison was a speculative fiction writer, and that created a very long conversation between me and Raven about like, no, she's not. And we had quite the discussion that day. So I was like, you know what? We need to have this conversation about who she is and how she's connected to this. So I'm going to I'm going to assume that we all know
My
who Toni
sound keeps
Morrison
going out. Can
is.
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you. You coming in
Okay,
very
now I can hear
clearly.
you.
Yes. Hold on. Can you
Okay.
hear? Can
Let's
everybody
try
hear
again.
me?
Let's keep going. So everything that you just giggled at, I missed it all. But ha ha hee hee.
I'm done. I'm done with you.
Shy,
So,
you are like one of my favorite people.
right.
You tweak so fun. Like you are the
Thank you.
best.
All right. So we all know Toni Morrison. You cannot
They
say
went
that
away
woman's.
again.
Oh my goodness. Can you hear?
Hmm.
This is loud, and this is a very expensive microphone, good sir. Can you hear me? You're on mute. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
While
Mm-hmm.
Shy
Also,
is figuring that out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So-
sorry. I was gonna ask, like, wherever we're going next, I feel like I need to be able to clear my name because Keisha just like kind of wring me out to dry. Because I feel like my stance is a little bit more sophisticated than
Oh no, it
right?
absolutely is. And we're gonna get into that most definitely. In fact, I've been thinking about your stance for quite some time, especially with the Butler stuff that's been happening lately. And I'm gonna give everybody a chance to explain how they feel. But like, we all know who Toni Morrison is. This woman is absolutely phenomenal. She is a brilliant writer who, you know, she ensures that she writes about Black life specifically. She excludes whiteness from everything she does. And the only time she really does talk about it is if she is harshly critiquing it somewhere. She is an award-winning writer, editor, purveyor of the arts. This woman can also hold a grudge and says everything about everything, you know? So I guess my question to you all is, to ease us into this, is what was your introduction to Toni Morrison, and what is your favorite work of hers, if those are two different responses? Whoever wants to go first can go first.
Can I go first because I can finally hear? And then
Yes.
just in case I so I guess I have to preface this with like, I have like avoided being a Toni Morrison scholar forever. I was first introduced to Toni Morrison's work maybe, I think I had just transferred to Winston State, and I was in the African American literature class, and I As an English major, fun fact, we typically don't read books. Sometimes we just like skim just enough to write the paper because we have like five other books that I need to read. So it just depends. And so that was one of the books that I just so happened to skim over. And so I missed all of it. And so all the things that I'm in love with Beloved now, I missed then. And it's so funny. So I'm currently in a situation, and back in the day, maybe like in 2014, his favorite book is Home. And so to be petty, I stole home from his I stole home from his house. I literally I admitted it today. After like what, 10 years, I admitted that I stole home from his house today. And so um I read Beloved first, I guess, and then the next semester we ended up reading God Help the Child. And God
Mm,
Help the Child is the first Toni Morrison book that I read and I loved. And so I said,
yeah,
okay, is her writing like this? Like, this is not what I remember Beloved being like. And then
yeah.
I went back and I tried to read Beloved again. I said, oh no, because it's not. Got it. And so I think I've only read Beloved. I've read Song of Solomon, but it was an audiobook, and so I need to read it again on text because I didn't really grasp what was going on from list.
Yeah,
I'm realizing when
same.
I read Toni Morrison's summaries that half the time when I'm reading the book, I have no idea what's going on. And so I need to read it like 3 or 4 times before I fully grasp everything that is happening. And I think that's all I have to say.
One, I had no idea where any of that was gonna go at any point of you speaking. The way I
Beloved.
was like, cool, wow, yeah, all right. But no, big agree. I started with Beloved too, and that was when I had went back into school because I have like a few years between my junior and senior year. So when I went back, I was like 26, married, kids, all that stuff. Went back and was like, oh, this woman is amazing. Because I was reading her at the same time that I was reading Gloria Naylor. And I was like, oh,
Beloved
this
as a, and
is,
that's, oh, Keisha, you have to read the interview
yeah.
they have together then. They have an interview together in
Naylor and
here.
Morrison. Oh, yeah, you got to send
Gloria
that to
Naylor
me.
and Toni Morrison. It's in
Yeah, you
here.
got to send
It's a
that to
good. They
me.
was talking good too.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I gotta check that out because, like, yeah, I think the world of both of them in very similar ways. Um, Especially like their love and appreciation for Shakespeare, like that's what got me into them. And so I remember reading Beloved and having my mind blown. I was like, oh, this black woman is writing her ass off. I don't understand everything, especially that stream of consciousness that happens at the end of Beloved. That was like the one part of it that like I was like, oh, I am stuck. And this is wonderful. I appreciated the challenge. And so every now and then I would like pick up a new Morrison book. And my favorite is actually God Help the Child, but that's only because,
She's top
trauma.
tier. She's that girl.
Yeah. Period. Who wants to go next?
All right, so I'll be real. I'll be real. I don't have a sophisticated entryway to Morrison. My first exposure of Toni Morrison was watching Beloved. I was
Mhm.
about 9 or 10, and I had heard how great she was, but because I was so young, I was never deeply invested at the time into jumping into her work. When
Mhm.
I went to college, I had an American Lit class that only did like, excerpts of The Bluest Eye. And my professor at the time, I was the only Black girl in the class. And he sort of kind of like pushed me on really coming up with abstract thinking and analyzing her work through those excerpts. And I was just like, can I just do whatever to pass the class? And by him forcing that on me, I was able to like really connect emotionally what the message was coming across. But when I got grown, I was in a bookstore one Saturday cozy day, and I picked up Sula, and I read Sula, and I was like, this is not
Mhm.
Beloved, but it has like that atmospheric
Mhm.
looming of beloved to me. Like I feel like there's if I feel like it's to like a smell the air, like something's in the air. That's just for me. And ever since then, I have always um I've always censored Toni Morrison, and not just literary canon, not just historical fiction, but also speculative. Because I feel as Black people, specifically Black American people, that we write speculatively, if that's a word, naturally. We're talking about our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our family, our community. There are speculative elements to the Black existence. So I always adamantly push back when people say Morrison is not part of the speculative canon. And I am very shocked that Keisha took our group chat to make it public, because we are definitely problematic.
We are not problematic.
I'm
We
joking.
just,
Never been a
no,
problem.
no. We just have
I'm
little
projecting. I'm
patience.
problematic. I'm sorry.
I'm screaming.
But yeah, so when this conversation came up, I was very, I ain't gonna front, I was offended. Like, yeah, I personally took offense to people kind of brushing off Morrison doesn't write speculative, it's maybe Southern, Gothic. I mean, like, okay,
Which is a
that's
speculative
nice.
subgenre. It's
Oh,
like,
exactly.
It is.
Because
use your brains.
speculative isn't pretty enough. I feel like it isn't prosy enough for a lot of people, and there's a lot of elitism in it. But I'm not going to go on that rant now.
Not right now.
Thank
Not
you.
quite yet.
Yeah. All right, Raven. Your favorite, what was your introduction to Morrison? What was your favorite work of hers?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is to Shy's point, right, about like kind of like trying stuff a bunch of times and like having to read it a bunch of times. I feel so vindicated because Honoré Fanone Jeffers went and wrote a op-ed on Oprah Daily last year about how it took her a whole bunch of times to get through Beloved. Like, first of all, like a bunch of false starts. And I was like, okay, I feel better now. Because exactly. So the kind of background for this is that Beloved was my first Toni Morrison, but I picked it up the summer after I finished high school because I was in the International Baccalaureate program. And so I like had a different sort of training in literature, and I felt I had missed some kind of like just important American literature. So that summer I was like, well, I'm just going to read, like I'm going to go get an AP lit list and just kind of read through it a little bit. And so I got to Toni Morrison, was pretty excited. I got Beloved, and I kid you not, I think I probably read like maybe 20 pages and my vision went red. Like my vision just like, I closed the book and I said, okay, I don't think I'm supposed to be reading this book right now.
You're not ready yet, baby. You're not ready yet.
Yeah. So I put it down. I read Tar Baby instead, which was not necessarily better, at least not to read by myself. So I think I have like two answers to that question. Like there's my first attempt, and then the first time that I actually think I understood what was going on, which was The Bluest Eye, which was like, probably I want to say 5 years after that attempt. And then I will still never forget the conversation that I had with one of my professors, someone I was working with in grad school, because I was trying to argue that the ending of The Bluest Eye was speculative. And the woman I was arguing with, like, really just did not. She was like, no, Pacola's going mad. And I was like, but what if
how do you go mad without losing your mind?
Right.
So I was in her office hours, like really digging down. But like also you can't be arguing with the elders like that, right? Like you. Right. So I was just after a while I was like,
Honoré says that too. She just had this I guess she had a conversation with somebody else where she was like, it was Toni and somebody else, and they were arguing, and they was like, "Well, what'd you do?" She said, "I don't get in grown folks' business."
Right.
So yeah.
But
We said,
that's how it is sometimes. So I was just like, I kept my opinion to myself and I let her be right in that situation and left it alone. But my favorite Toni Morrison, it really should be Song of Solomon. Like, if you know anything about me, the answer should be Song of
It should be
Solomon,
Song
and
of
it's
yeah,
not.
Solomon.
It's
it
Sula.
should.
It should be. And
Mm,
I've tried to
Scandalous.
make Song of Solomon my
right?
favorite. I just don't know.
Okay.
But there's something about Sula that just like, and you know what? It might just be because I really don't be paying too much attention to men. First of all, like that
Oh,
might be why
say it.
Song of
I need a gong.
Say it.
Ding.
Right?
like, I mean, I know Toni Morrison has her things she has to say, but like the way that Toni Morrison feels about white people being in her books is how I feel about men being in my books. Why are they there?
Say it.
What is the point? Do I write like little heterosexual romances right now? Yeah. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
She said, "I need to make money."
But they're so
We're not going to
cute,
talk about
though. They're so cute, though, Riz. It's like, come on, a soccer player, a black girl that like chocolate and sweets. Come on, that's cozy.
Come on. Black
That is
women's
it.
epistolary.
Like
it.
that is
Right?
Let's talk about
totes.
it.
She said,
I
"Black
need
women are the center."
everyone in this chat needs to check their email after, or like in this room right now needs to check their email for the manuscript that I just finished a draft of and see if y'all still think everything I write is so cute.
Yeah.
Right now needs to check their email for the manuscript that I just finished a draft of and
Oh,
see
I
if
can
y'all
hear
still think
that.
everything I write is so cute.
One, I think it's interesting that all of us
It'd be very
had
awkward when
like.
I can't hear y'all.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear me now, or is it just
Well, I
my
can't. I
microphone?
can't. I'll be trying to sneak and listen to
Oh.
the Instagram live. Like, what am I missing?
I think it's very interesting
I can't
that
wait.
we've all had
Okay.
multiple. I know, right? That we've all had like to have multiple passes at her work in order to like fully understand it. I know you said Song of Solomon should be the one you love, but for real, I cannot. I still don't know what I read. Couldn't tell you what happened in that book. I just know there's somebody who is supposed to fly.
But I also think like, so Erica mentioned Chicago. I'm Virginian in like a very serious way, and so that's another thing for me why Song of Solomon should be important to me. Like I get my little Virginia book, but or like, you know, that's in there. But it's not even that it is, I will say it is confusing, but it's just not even that. I just think that like Beloved, everyone understands why it's so raw. Like everyone understands why it's raw. And I think there's something that's equally raw about Sula that I think because it's like about not about how Black women died, but because of how we lived, that like people want to act like they don't understand, right? And so like the horror is a little bit different. Oh, what is happening on the screen?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We lost Shy and then we lost Erica.
Oh, I'm back. I switched to my iPad because it was working on my iPad, so I figured let me just go somewhere.
Okay.
And so now I'm gonna adjust my lighting. So I'm gonna go off camera real quick, but I'm here. I'm listening. Talk to me.
Hold on. I think
where's
Erica
Erica?
went out. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But continue. We'll figure it out.
I unfortunately don't know where I should go next with that because I feel like that was my answer.
No, oh, okay. Erica said that she had a phone. No. I think it's really interesting to know that it's supposed to be one way. I don't know why this is throwing me off, but I guess let's get into speculative fiction, because I know that there is a lot of there's a lot of misinformation or misunderstanding about what exactly speculative fiction is. And unfortunately, I think that influences the way people see the genre, whether it's the overarching one or like the very specific genre. So wanted to know, um, what is speculative fiction? What is speculative fiction? I have a definition, and I can't give that one if everyone wants to, but if y'all have one, we can rock with that too.
Give us yours, babe.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Take the
So
room.
I've always seen speculative fiction as there's two definitions, right? There's the overarching and then there's the specific, because not every sci-fi, fantasy, horror, alternate, they're not always speculative fiction. So we have the overarching one, right? That through culture and what have you, we say, hey, this is speculative. We say it's whatever has non-real elements. So it's sci-fi, horror, some mysteries, some thrillers, fantasy, and all the subsects that are in all of those. We also have what there's a few other genres that I am forgetting, but basically it's anything with non-real elements in it, right? And then we have the genre itself, speculative fiction, which I've always seen as like a literary science experiment, right? Where you have this question that posits, what if X, Y, Z happens? And then the author uses story to flesh out that experiment. They take into consideration the different variables. They, you know, they do all these things. They create this experiment, and then they come to a decision at the end of it. Not necessarily a conclusion or what people should feel, but it's just like a what if. You should come out of those stories understanding that it's a critique of our reality and what we know it, and either either seeing a model for how things could get better, or seeing the track that we're on to see, like, hey, if we stay on this path, it's going to get worse. So that for me is speculative fiction. How do we feel about that definition, that word?
I think I definitely
I like
align with.
that definition.
Yeah, I like the experimental. I've been like when I was in
Mhm.
grad school and they kept like experimental fiction, and I'm like, okay, so what's the difference between speculative fiction? Like, why are we calling it experimental fiction when there's already a word? And
Mm-hmm.
like, what is the distinction? And that's not something that I have like dived into. And I'm still grappling honestly with speculative fiction myself. I know. So there's a book called Diverse Futures by Joy Sanchez Taylor, Doctor Joy
Mm-hmm.
Sanchez Taylor, and she talks about in the introduction how she prefers sci-fi, because she thinks speculative fiction cheapens what is going on. And so, like, she acknowledges that fantasy exists, but she doesn't want sci-fi to be inclusive of speculative fiction. Or when we're talking about science fiction books, name them as science fiction versus speculative fiction. What I find problematic with that as a person who reads Black speculative fiction is that most of the time our writing is cross genre, and so
Yeah,
like I might like that. It's kind of difficult to say, oh, something is specifically science fiction when it's not. And speculative fiction gives you an opportunity to talk about the cross genre things and the aesthetics and the tropes that provide like that critical distance but that intimate closeness at the same time.
agreed. Yeah, I understand wanting to keep them separate, because, like we said, it's not all speculative fiction, or not all science fiction is speculative fiction, but
Right.
we we do a
But
lot.
I'm also, so like, I guess in my mind, I have it almost like organized like a flow chart, right? So
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
would imagine speculative being at the top, and then the other, like the
They just
genres are underneath.
Yeah.
And then I can agree with you that there are like probably, so maybe like sci-fi, not all of it falls under that umbrella. Like there's like a leg out. Like I get it. Like I
Yeah.
get that, but I'm also just kind of like that the definition that Shy you're giving me, and I also I'm gonna say this, and I already know I probably shouldn't because I really hate speaking on stuff I have not read. So I'm gonna say it, but like, but my thing is the way that you're describing it, or like describing that argument, is it feels. I still don't understand. There's a world where sci-fi would be the umbrella term.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
In my
There's
review,
not.
that's what I wrote. Is like I think that's where this
Can.
falls short. It's just like you're kind of like Morrison. You're rejecting a term that you don't have a full like. I don't want to say Morrison didn't comprehend what speculative fiction means, but from reading her
It was
interviews at this
still
point three
growing.
times, it does seem like
Yeah.
not that she didn't understand it, but she was just rejecting of it. There was an interview where she like someone says, "I think your work is magical realism," and she responds like, "Well, no, magical realism is kind of what they're doing in Latin America. I can see why you would say that's what I'm doing, but that's not what I'm doing. But it's cool though. Love that for them, but that's just not what I'm doing." But she also uses language that is inherent in speculative theory, and
Yes.
so she in one interview, I wish I had pulled quotes, but she said something like, who is she to like tell her ancestors that they're wrong? But she also understands that she's working with their knowledge and her knowledge, and so she's able to add on. And so I would like to think that she just affirmed that I can say that, hey, auntie, you didn't have it all, and I'm here now to extend, not change, just extend. That's it. That's all I want to do.
Mm.
So with Shy saying that, I think we are actually far closer in what our understandings are than perhaps I might have originally thought at outset, right?
See,
Because that has essentially been my stance, right? Which is that I, as a Black woman writer, I am so aware of how infrequently people read the work. Like read the work carefully, read what I said. Like I put it in the book for a reason, right?
mhm.
Like I said it
Yeah.
for a reason. And so and I think this is why my stance on her is different than it was when I was in grad school, because I hadn't written and published a lot when I was doing this work, right? Because now I get in front of people and I'm like, man, I said what I said. I told y'all what I thought. Why am I still explaining this, right? And so I'm much more careful to, while I understand and I largely agree, like there's not really much I disagree with any of y'all's takes on like Morrison being a speculative like, well, there's not
Yeah.
much that
Yeah.
I take issue, right, with
Yeah.
Morrison's work being
Being
speculative or like
right.
having
Right.
speculative
Right.
elements. Wouldn't call her a speculative scholar because she wouldn't have called herself that, which is
Mhm.
basically Shy's point,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm that is something that is really important to me because she told us, right? And it almost doesn't matter that she contradicts herself a lot. She is a contrary person. She changes her mind in
Right.
the same essay, in the same interview. Like that's a lady that just like she really, I mean, like honestly, live thinking at its finest, she will change her mind like 4 or 5 times in like one go, right? But what I have tried really hard to do is honor what she said,
Mhm.
right? Because that is more important than what I think. Honestly, I'm trying to honor like how she thought about herself. And I guess like there's the part about we're extending and we're moving in a different direction, and I think that's true. So I guess honestly, I guess we're not, I think probably more of what we're doing in this conversation is how do we hold the fact that like we know this
Yes.
is there and
Yes.
also like honor what she said. right? Like, I
Yeah.
think that's more of what we're trying to do.
I
Yes.
think, like, as someone, hmm. So in my dissertation, I have to address this because I'm asserting her as not a speculative writer, but that her book is speculative fiction.
Right.
And so I have to, provide a definition of what speculative fiction means for me, and I connect that back to Africana oral histories in Africa. And so, like, these are things that we're doing. Like, when we talk about Black speculative fiction, we're not talking about what white people consider speculative fiction, and what we're really doing is adopting language of the West to describe things that we've already done. And so, when I frame it that way, and again saying that I'm not trying to refute Morrison's own agency and how she describes herself, but offering another lens from which to view her work that places her into another tradition. But arguably, most of the writers of 80s, 90s Black Southern Gothic would not call themselves speculative fiction, but there's possessions, there's ghosts, there's witches. But like Toni Morrison calls it the Milu that Black people knew, the beyonds and the betweens between life and death. Like, these are things that we intimately knew. We knew about ghosts. She wrote Tar Baby because she was listening to the Tar Baby stories when she was a kid. So like she knew the Flying African stories, like all of these things that she was told when she was a child. And same. I was told these stories as a child too, and that's why when I grew up, I read fantasy and sci-fi. And so I think it's just language. It's also like this use of things being highly imaginative in the ways that the West has like shaped connotations that are not in the denotation. So like when I think about imagination, we all using our imaginations. Like, our imagination is just our
Yeah.
brain putting things together and trying to think beyond. And so like the magical realism is still rooted in realism. It's real.
Mhm.
And I think that's why when they talked about magical realism, she was a little bit more open to magical realism than fantasy, because magical realism inherently is grounding the work in the real life. And I think there are writers now who are calling it Black spiritual realism. And so, like, there's language. There are people who have contributed to a tradition, and I would like to think that if I talk to Toni Morrison, while she might fuss at me, she might be like, "Okay, I see where you're
That's what
going."
it, that's what I've thought. Like the
I think she
fact
might cuss me
that
out though.
probably
Yeah.
I've been thinking about like if if we were to have that, if somebody were to have that conversation with her in 2026, would she possibly consider more, knowing that, we have a different, more evolved definition of Black speculative fiction and what it can do, and the fact that it doesn't necessarily mean what it meant, you know, when she was looking at that. I'm not saying
Bro,
that she.
I still don't, because like that lady like was halfway gone, like upset about
Fair.
Hamilton.
Oh
Like
yeah,
like
yeah.
I so
Funded a
it's
whole
like
play,
right. So
but
it's
then
like come on. I think this is my forever point, right? It's just like that lady
let her
told us who
rock.
she was.
Yeah, let
Yeah,
her rock.
she told us who she was so much. And I'm just like, all right. All right.
So
I
I
hear
guess,
you.
yeah. So it's not necessarily to convince her. I guess, like, and it's something that I've said to you before. I was like, one of the reasons why I try really hard to connect speculative fiction to her is not necessarily for her, but the way the public sees speculative fiction, right? Because the public, has that negative connotation connected to it. They see speculative fiction, they see science fiction, they see horror, they see fantasy as less than, in a way, yeah, in these days, people on YouTube or on Instagram, they be like, "Oh, classic literature," and then you don't see anything by like Pauline Hawkins. You don't see anything by Ishmael Reed. You don't see speculative classics that should be on those lists, and they don't exist. And I'm
Unless you're
like,
on my page, because I just made a video about it, and you can go look on my page right now.
right? But
You,
like these titles should be there, but they're
Mhm.
not. And there is an elitist reason why people do that. And I I'm a firm believer that speculative fiction can open the doors for how people are able to reimagine things, in order for us to free ourselves in our minds. Like that's my reason really for like extending this, not necessarily to like give
And I
her a
think
new.
Toni Morrison talked about when she was writing Beloved, like she experienced the hauntings. Like that's like the premise of my dissertation, or at least what I'm writing right
Mhm,
now, is that the language that she uses hints at she had an actual haunting of the beloved figure, right? And
mhm.
so when I think about how divinely blessed I have been in my life and my career, there have been too many moments where I have had like even I texted Raven this up the minute I saw it. It's not in front of me because I just moved my setup. There's a book that just came out about a Morrisonian democracy. I found that literally the day that I had wrote the part of my dissertation talking about Toni Morrison and why she's a speculative scholar, I mean writer, or why her books are speculative, or can be read as speculative. I found a book that affirmed my argument, and so it was
I'm
like,
gonna need you to send that to
Toni,
me as
you're
well.
right here, Toni. I conjured you, sister, auntie. You're haunting me because I arguably there are moments where I feel like I'm experiencing a haunting, and she's over my shoulder. Like, yeah, I might not agree with you,
I
but you're gonna write it.
but okay. So one thing I have y'all know I'm a little spooky ooky. Okay? Like y'all know this. Matter of fact, I got birth charts.
Yeah,
I keep this. Be thinking about this. So like to your point, Shy, there's like some astrological stuff happening where I can point to it in her chart where it's probably like there's astrology that affirms that. But the other thing that I was gonna say, um, mm, I lost my thought. That's okay. Y'all keep going.
All
sorry.
right,
Did
can
I
I
mess
jump
you up?
in? Can I jump
Yes,
in?
Yes.
I
yes,
kind of want
yes.
Jump
to
in.
kind of like jump in and kind of piggyback what all y'all said. So I think with my approach is, I actively try to decolonize how I look at concepts when it comes to literature. So when I think about speculative, specifically Black speculative, it's really about functionality to me, right? How do these happenstances or unexplainables happen in the everyday world, or how can we imagine it happening in the everyday world? And again, I going back to my original point that I believe we are naturally just speculative in the way we operate, the way we exist, the way we pass down things inherently. The doesn't even matter our relationship with our kinfolk. There's just certain things that we inherit, that we keep with us, and we instinctively pass down, uh
Yeah.
knowingly and unknowingly, right? And so that's like the speculative aspect of it. And talking to Shy and Keisha, always in a group chat, you know when we like see these conversations, we just end up like tossing words at each other, like just words, and we just end up
Yeah.
coming up with things. So um again, I do agree that people just don't want to see Morrison as a writer who can create speculative, because that kind of destroys their notion of what is literature, what they like. And I have
Mhm.
read Latin American magical realism. um Honestly, especially like the newer books, there's not really that much of a big difference. I mean, even Caribbean,
Yeah.
Afro Caribbean magical realism is speculative. When We Were Birds, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
not speculative? But people classify it, well, at least in mainstream, culture sectors or whatever, consider it, Black magical realism or Caribbean magical realism. So I think magical realism is a blurred line with speculative, because it's kind of hard to have one without the other. At least how I see it, you don't. It's hard to
Yeah.
have, like, they're almost the same thing, but not. Um, and yeah, that's what I have on it. I think the best writers are speculative writers, because they can weave through history, they could weave through the future, they could weave through the past, they could weave through the present, they could put philosophies together. And that's what Morrison does. That's what we love her for, because she makes us think, and we have to read her work. You feel like you can't read after you finish or dive into her books. You're like, what did I just read? Why can't I comprehend? My brain is not working. She breaks your brain, and that's what she was, her gift to us.
Yeah, she unmakes us.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh, where did my
I
brain
think.
go? Go Raven. My thought went boom.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, like, I don't want to take us too far off, like off topic, talking about magical realism, because again, like that's. I think before I like really got into Toni Morrison, I was really into magical realism, right? Like that. So first of all, like if y'all are not streaming the House of the Spirit show on Amazon Prime, go do that right now. Isabel Allende Hive up, okay? So it's out right now. But I think one of the things that is just kind of interesting with that conversation is just that I feel weird about Black people not like it's like there's like we can't be involved in that conversation because we know how the diaspora worked, right? So it's like I feel like it's weird that like we're like we can't touch that in some ways, right? Like I think you need to know what's going on like nationality wise, like the colonial, but I think it's part of our conversations as well. Like it's part of a larger kind of like international conversation about Blackness. Or at least
Yeah.
it could be. If we're going back to this whole thing about my flow chart and the umbrellas and stuff, there are pieces of it that definitely fall under the Black speculative umbrella, right? Like,
Yes.
okay.
But
Not
you're
to not to like derail us into talking about that. But
All right. So, I mean, for the most part, I guess we are all kind of agreeing that we don't want to change Morrison's definition. We just want to extend. And so,
Revisit, debate a little bit, and then extend.
okay,
I don't
debate
feel like
what?
debate.
I just feel like
Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I think, and she does she talk about this? Well, she doesn't talk about this, but it's language. It's just semantics. It's semantics.
mhm.
Like if you are using language while you're saying that you're not writing speculative, but you're using language that hints at the speculative, and I am now using speculative as a theory, and I'm using the same language.
Then you should be able to. I think
It's a slippery slope that I don't
it
mind
is.
ice picking my way into
And I
it.
would have been
I'm
there
like,
with you if this whole Butler thing didn't happen. So, like, for those listening, we know that Butler's Survivor book is returning to print this year. And I was actually 100% on board. I was thinking the same thing you were, Shaheem, until this happened. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Butler didn't want us to read this book. Why the fuck are we reprinting this? This is the problem. And we need to listen to her. And I was like, oh, well, damn. Why was it so easy for me to agree with Butler? And then I'm debating with Morrison. And I've been struggling with that for like the last week. And
but like, here's the
It's two
thing.
different
Oh,
reasons.
sorry.
I think those are not mutually exclusive, but I'm going to defer to Dr. Stringfield.
Don't you defer to me for anything. This is like, don't even try. Don't even try. Listen, all I was about to say is that like I have like it's so hard because I have this is where I stand on it, and also out in several places she has said like I don't really like the isms of it all, right? And so there's a part in which, right, like to your point about semantics, she wouldn't have cared what you called it, right? She didn't want a label on it. Like it it really wouldn't have mattered. It like there's not a correct. I think that's the thing too. It's like there's not even really a correct term, or like she just didn't want to be like locked in into a place. And half of me thinks that's why her answers are so wild sometimes and like very contradictory. It reminds me of when like people used to just like straight up, well, yes, we didn't know the birth dates and stuff, but sometimes people would just lie just because, like
Oh, my
it would
great
be like
grandmother
one
did
thing.
that.
I know someone who
We
lies
didn't
about
know
that.
she was over 80. Like, we didn't know her real birthday. We didn't know she had plastic surgery until after she died. Just lied.
I
I'm
remember you
just saying,
talking.
and like and let me also like again clear my name. I'm not calling Toni Morrison a liar on the internet. That's not what I'm
Oh, no,
saying.
no, no, not at
But
all.
But I mean, she's human.
No,
Humans
I
aren't
mean,
fallible, and
yeah.
I wouldn't put it past her to tell a lie just to keep you on your toes.
I
But
think it
again, if we're
was.
talking about her being contradictory, there is in the source of self-regard in one of those essays, she's like, but one of the reasons she doesn't really take to magical realism or speculative and all that kind of stuff is because she says she wasn't lying. She wasn't getting on the page to
Right,
lie,
right. She
right?
wasn't lying,
So
and
it's like,
that's my I guess my point of contention is that they not lying either, sister. And so, auntie,
True.
it's like they don't think that they're lying either. It's the white people who think we lying, and since we're not whiting
oh,
for the white gays, like I mean, I don't know. So like, I mean, for me as someone who's seen ghosts, like I've seen Papa Legba, like I've seen these things, and so when I read fantasy, I already like I vampires exist somewhere. It's somebody out here sucking blood, and you can't tell me that it's not.
I'm a quote Boondocks. There are known knowns and known unknowns and unknown unknowns. And I refuse to believe anything else.
And
Yeah.
that is what I call sanctified speculative narratives. Thank you, Keisha.
but
Okay,
but
so
Shy, I like. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Shy, though, I like that point, right? About like, so who thinks we're lying, right? Like
Right.
who is the liar in the situation? Where is the truth, right? Like where is the truth in all of this? And I think what's so interesting is that we the thought experiment that Keisha is posing, like the speculative literature thought experiment, the what if, right? Somebody thinks that the what if these imaginaries are lies. Like whatever the result
Mm.
of the experiment is, they're lies. That's what a white person perhaps looking from the outside in might think. I was at AWP in March and I was sitting in on the Afro Surrealism panel, and it was Maurice Carlos Ruffin, Joy Priest, John Bircher. I'm blanking on the other two names, but that was basically what Maurice Carlos Ruffin, like what his whole argument about the Afro Surreal is, that like we actually don't have to, we're not lying. It like we are so, like, us literally just saying the truth about our lived experience sounds
Is absurd.
so nuts,
Yeah.
right? Like it just sounds so absurd.
Mhm.
So all we have to do is tell the truth, right? And so I think maybe that's the issue we have, like at the core, right? Like we have the the tension is about where the truth is, who is determining what it is, um all of that. I think that might be where a lot of the issue is.
And I think the issue also
Yeah.
comes from like when they think about their mythologies, they don't think about them as ontologies, whereas we do.
Hmm.
Like there's where'd my brain go? I had a line. It was a bar, and it went poof. Um, damn, I don't remember. However, I said what I said. What I just said is what I meant, and is that we our worldview. Oh, ha! I remember. Sometimes we have realisms and allegories in the same stories. Even that's how we've
Yeah.
always told stories. Like even when we think about like the cosmogenesis and the origin stories, half of it is like real lived experience and what we've witnessed and what has been passed down. The other half is a little exaggerated because that's
Mm-hmm.
how we tell
Mhm.
stories. And what we are able to do as people who are inheritors of this, like this lens that I guess decodes these stories, is read between the lines. We can read the meta text and extract what we need to learn, what we need to learn, to apply to what we need to
Mhm.
apply, but also like inform how we're seeing the world. And the West has done a really good job at disrupting that, so that when we do
Mhm.
read the books, like for me, again, I'm reading some books. I understand like this is fantasy, this is highly
Mhm.
imaginative, and there's other
Mm-hmm.
things that are grounded that are not as highly imaginative as I guess the market makes them seem, which honestly is why they're so powerful. And so my hmm, one thing that I've came to value in talking about speculative fiction, specifically the Black Southern Gothic tradition, is that there'll be people like Casey. If Casey, if you're on here, hi. But there'll be people like Casey who say like I've never read speculative fiction, and then I would say
Yeah.
like, oh well, Doctor Black's they tell me of a home has speculative elements. That there's a possession. There's
Mm-hmm.
literally a scene where a dead mom is possessing her son and having sex with his daddy. Complicated but speculative. And so like if okay, you read that, you read Mama Day, you read Baby of the Family. That's
Babies.
like Tina McElroy Ansa's books are probably like the
Mm-hmm.
main like I can't wait to write the story about my auntie. Because like that's one of the main I guess books that I tell people like, oh, if you've read Tina McElroy Ansa, you've definitely read speculative fiction. They're ghosts. And in the hand I fan with, she's having sex with a ghost.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the distance of people from saying speculative fiction or what I consider to be speculative fiction is not speculative fiction. It's further proving my point that it's just how we see the world. And so I get why you would, if you understand the term to be this, I understand why you would distance yourself from
Mhm.
that. But once you understand that the term is actually not this, it's something else. How is your perspective shifted? And that's what I'm curious of is like, and then once the perspective shifts, what are you now taking not only from the text that we're discussing but the tradition? What other books are you now inserting into the tradition to show like and to emphasize that this is just how we see the world?
You're right, because if we do that, there are many more books that we can also include into the
And I'm finding them.
conversation.
Drop them in the chat.
Yeah, there are so many more books that we'd be able to have those conversations around and then question, okay, like how can we as a community, like you said, think differently, be differently. Um, so I guess that's my next question. Um, how can we use these works? Because that's one of my goals is helping people understand like the true breadth and depth of Black speculative fiction, right? So like how can we use Morrison's works to help the masses, help general public understand, where it sits in speculative fiction and how we can use that to be better. Because yeah, I've already said it. I firmly believe that this is going to be a solid entry point, for a lot of people in understanding this. So to be honest, it's not just Morrison. It's Gloria Naylor. We can have this conversation about a lot of different writers who have the speculative elements in their work. How can we use this to be like, hey, include these writers, include these stories, um, in these Black classics. Let's have like a broader conversation.
I think so. One thing that I realized in speculative fiction last year that I'm still trying to figure out how to put in words is that speculative fiction acts as theory and method and narrative simultaneously. And
Mm-hmm.
so like through Morrison's work, she's showing us you need to go and revive the dead. You need to sit with that. whatever, you need to accept this haunting experience. Like, they were in 124 Bluestone Road, they lived there knowing their house was haunted. They didn't leave, they sat
Yeah.
with that. And then that haunting became embodied, and they had to confront, when they weren't able to confront it themselves, it embodied itself and confronted. You can think about that generational trauma, the ways that's manifested in the real world. When we talk about like allegories, like method and theory, like, and that's why I like that my dissertation is juxtaposing her with Leslie Penelope's The Monster We Defy, because she does the same thing. There's a scene in The Monster We Defy that Clara is typing up a story about a young girl that she acknowledges, like, this story has no life, there's no interiority of the subject, it's just facts. And then the ghost of the girl's father comes over her shoulder and was like, that's not my daughter, let me tell you stuff about my daughter. And so then she goes back and edits the journal article, because she was working for the Negro Journal under Carter G.
Mm-hmm.
Woodson. And so she edited the story to have more of that interiority in this report. And they went back and told her, was like, we don't know this. And she was like, in her brain, like, we do know this, this is a lived account, but I'm clairvoyant, and so I can't really, ground that in a source.
Yeah.
Our sources are our lived experiences, our sources are our ancestors. If we think about epigenetic memory, like, we have access to all of these things already. And the haunting is gonna come. They went to archives, and they left out the archive with a little specter on their shoulder. Well, I guess Leslie Penelope didn't even go to the archive. This is another conversation, because she also talks about being haunted, but she was doing her research during COVID where she couldn't go to libraries, so she was on the computer. They have access to the Digiverse now, apparently. So, like, go out and get it. And then Sankofa, go back and get it and bring it back.
Yes. 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 Anyone else? Erica, I know we haven't really talked about Erica's,
No, that's okay because
theoretical framework. No.
Shuri's in the background, so she's good now. So I can talk now.
Like, we got to talk about this framework and how it relates to everything we've been discussing. So if you can tell
Okay.
everybody what you've been doing lately with Rust
I'm
Belt
glad
Gossip.
I'm glad y'all talking about hauntings too, because I feel like, you know, I feel like a lot of Black people are going to be haunted. Either they are being haunted currently and don't know it, or they do know it and they have learned to live with it. So, it started in the group chat, right? We was talking about Morrison, and in between messages, I just said, okay, what about Rust Belt Gothic? Because I feel, as a Midwestern, as somebody born and raised in Chicago, and I feel like I'm the country city cousin, right? Because I'm from Chicago. A lot of my cousins from Mississippi and Georgia, Alabama. So like I'm their city cousin, right? But we're very close. And I often feel like, Midwest culture is erased because it's not Southern, it's not coastal. Everything is just kind of like flattened. And, you know, regional Blackness is important, and I think it's celebratory as well, because what Black people do in Chicago is different from what Black people do out in California. Not saying one or the other is better, but it's different and is lovely, it's beautiful, and I love catching similarities to Black people throughout the diaspora, not just coastal folks, but like I love when I see, people eating red beans and rice like I do, or something similar to cornbread. Like I love that connection. But yes, Rust Belt Gothic. I smoke weed, and then I was like, yeah, this sounds right. And then I had to force myself to kind of like sit with it though. So, Sha was on me like, you need to put this out. Like, what are you waiting for? And I was like, this is a lot to synthesize. So it took me about 2 years. And then I finally felt confident enough to present it. And then I, wrote the whole, I used Sinners as a case study to talk about Rust Belt Gothic, which is live right now on Reactor. Um, Anybody can
Yeah.
read it. It's like 3,000 words, so take your time. It's not an easy read. Well, it's not a short read, it's a long read. And yeah, you know, blackness, black spirituality, while I accept that my grandparents are very southern to the bone, their southern traditions hit a different pressure being in Chicago, right? So they have their roots in them, but it was tested in ways they've never been tested before. You just got to think about being a black person, being born and raised in Mississippi. You walking outside with no shoes on sometimes because it's hot. And then you go to Chicago for the first winter, you going to be, your life is transformed because you don't know what cold is, especially that Great Lake cold wind is not the same as the coast. So you know again, I think about speculative as a function versus just, something to like box in, because the way we operate is just different. And it's also a lot of skills that are passed on in speculative fiction. You learn a lot. I have learned a lot reading Black books, not just about myself, but my family, my community. And, storytelling is important to Black people. And I don't know why people are so persistent to dismiss Black speculative fiction, Black horror, Black science fiction. Like, do they not think we could live in the future? I mean, I feel like Black people, we have to live in the future because we already know what's in the past. We don't want to go back there.
I see that as a I see that as part elitist, but that elitism is coming from white supremacy, just wanting to assimilate in some way. Um, Wanting to say, hey, this person made it, this person is seen as a peer of literary greats, you know, um, these perceived literary greats in America who are white, and Toni Morrison happens to, cross that threshold, and so
And you know what, people act like that, Keisha. My retort is, okay, so what about Stephen King? Does he not write horror? Is he not known for horror? I don't even read Stephen King's horror, and I know he has like a plethora of books, horror books, and people consider him a great author, right? Like
they do.
they don't challenge his literary work because he writes horror. They praise it. It's literally the standard of American horror, great literature, fiction. So
But I
why
think white
yeah.
people don't have their identity connected to Christianity the way we do. I think that's where that comes from, where horror writers are allowed to be part of that, you know, literary greatness. And to be honest, that's only recent because horror writers weren't respected or appreciated back then either, right? But I really do think it's because of, and y'all could say if y'all agree or disagree, but I see it as something because it doesn't fit into that perfect identity that Black folks need to have in order to achieve success in our society. We don't let as much slip through. We don't let as much in. The gatekeeping is very strong, unfortunately. And so I find an issue with that. Hopefully we can get to a point where we don't have as many barriers. We don't put as many barriers in front of ourselves, and we're able to, think things through. Y'all let me know because I don't want to keep talking.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I'm gonna say this before my iPad dies. Um, Elizabeth Ebony Thomas, Ebony Elizabeth Thomas.
Mm,
Correct me.
yes,
I have a hard time with sister
the
name,
dark
Doctor Scientific.
fantastic.
But when she talks about like how her mother wouldn't let her to read fantasy because she said that there's a black girl, there's enough here in real life that a black girl has to worry about. You don't have to go out on an adventure to do it. Um, I think that like while my mom didn't use that same rhetoric, what I was met more with "Don't bring the devil mess in my house." more than I guess like racist responses or responses to racist life that we live. But
Yeah.
I think that like my issue is that's where I want to sit. I want to sit in that. Like I want to sit in that pocket and just
Hmm.
speculate. Like I don't understand why people want to run from it. Even like one of my I think I wrote a screenplay in or not think I know I wrote a screenplay in my master's program where the witches just like rip the KKK to shreds.
Yes.
I wanna do that. Like I wanna show the ways that we fought back. I wanna show the interior
Real
lives,
random.
the joys, the fright, the frustrations, the times that we were frightened, what made us laugh, what made that like, okay, you might got a power to like suck people's life force out. What triggered that? Were you born with that? Or did racism cause you to spark this inherent power that you got from your distant ancestor? I want to sit with that and imagine because there's someone
Mhm.
out there who like who's living that story or someone who lived that story and they're just whispering it in my ear and it's my job to tell it.
Mhm.
Speaking on
I
before
think,
anyone else talk, I want to say Toni Morrison would be highly offended that I'm bringing this up, but I feel like what you're talking about your screenplay is very reminiscent of They
The
Choose
Dreaming
Violence.
Emmett.
It's a comic.
Oh, oh, I was gonna say
She'd be
Dreaming
very
Emmett.
pissed.
Her screenplay, I mean her stage play that she hated.
No. This woman is highly offended by the idea of comics, and so
Oh,
like you just
Keisha was
reminded
so
me.
stressed out when
I was so
I
yeah.
pointed that out to her a couple of times, and she like did not believe me. So I had to pull the book and send screenshots, and then she went and read The Source of Self Regard for
Yeah,
herself and like pulled out all.
but it's just a
just
generation. It's just a
yeah,
generation, and so like I think we're again we're human. None of us are infallible, and we're all informed by the life and the lives around us, and we don't know everything. And sometimes like life is what is it clear in hindsight?
yeah. Unfortunately, it is.
Raven, you were gonna say something. Do you remember?
Yeah, I just, I've been thinking a lot about like both of what y'all said. I'm really glad you invoked Dr. T, Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. Love her down. She definitely needs to be in a conversation about like black imagination, black fantasy. Toni Morrison, right? Like she is the inheritor of that tradition for sure. And importantly, that woman is Detroit down, right? So if we're talking about some like Rust Belt Gothic, it's like we also need to be over there as well, right? Like Dr. T needs to be in that conversation. And something like Erica, first of all, I love that. I can't wait to go read your essay and think about it some more because I've really been thinking about that myself also because like I remember I sent someone like this really long like middle of the night voice note about how I was pretty sure there were space landings in the Midwest like for black people because like why are all the Afrofuturists in Chicago? Like what
Mm,
like why are they so deeply concentrated in Chicago in Chicago and maybe like there's a couple of them in um like a little bit further down because I also think of like Janelle Monáe, like they're all these are Midwest people. And so I think for me, part of the conversation, I think Erica, you described it as like weaving of time. And I almost think of it as like a
A
collapsing
collapse.
of time. Like,
Quote my
yeah, yeah.
dissertation. Yeah, quote my dissertation.
Because like I think that's what happens for me when I start thinking about time and place in Black speculative. And so, like, I agree with you deeply that there's regional specificity. And I also think that there's also a way in which it like just folds in, right? I have like one essay that I wrote and I haven't been able to place yet, but I was like thinking about like it feels like when I read Toni Morrison and when I read Hanif Abdurraqib, like that to me is like it feels like time and space just like do like this. It's like you can't tell me those two people are not speaking directly to each other from the page. Like these two Ohio-born writers. And then also two people who would probably not call themselves Afrofuturists, right? And there's also so much in Hanif's work that is deeply speculative. He has this essay called Non-Considerations of Black People in Space that starts with him like being like, I don't like the moon as much as other poets do. But I still think there's something kind of interesting about the stars, right? I still think there's something a little bit interesting about astrology. Like he knows that there, it's like even if he doesn't claim it, he's like, there's just something inherently innate that I'm born with, that I'm gifted, that even if I choose not to nurture it, I know belongs to me. And so I think there's a way that like they talk to each other. And anyway, all this to say, like, I need someone to pick that essay up.
Wait, hold on, Raven. hold on now. I need to get you this essay. I need to share my little slideshow with you because I have him listed under under Rust Gothic, under Rust Gothic realism. So I'm gonna show you that, and I'm glad you brought up numbers. And I have an essay that's out in the world that touches on numbers, because by creating this framework, I'm using myself as an example, right? I'm able to I'm using myself. So I was able to, find out that there's something really interesting in the Hardison family. They all seem to be born and die around the same time. And this goes back like 3 generations. Yes, creepy. It's real creepy. So when I talk about, Black speculative, we live in it. I really mean it. Like we are in it. We're in the mix. We're not outside. And I definitely think that's the difference between Black speculative fiction and more white speculative. Like we live inside of it. They're observing. Like they're trying to create. They love creating. I think Keisha, you said it. Their dystopians are just our regular life or something like that.
Yeah. They're cosplaying Blackness in the marginalized experience. That's why I can't read white anything, and I apologize for anyone who's tried to wreck a white book to me.
I don't.
They do it on purpose. I just feel they do it on purpose. At this point, if you are a book publicist and you feel like you are really good at your job, if you are intentionally sending, what I call supermarket novels, right? The upmarket novels you see, all the Karens buying with the big bold print, and y'all know what I'm talking about. So if that's what you are working on, you don't have to give me a copy, because it ain't nothing about that book gonna come out my mouth. So I just assume that y'all got extra copies and you just want me to give it away, because that's all I'm gonna do.
I don't need it.
Basically. All right. Before Shy's iPad dies,
let's go. Let's eat it.
One last thing that y'all would like to say to everybody. Well, one, I do want to say that this was a really interesting conversation. I do want to have this discussion again when everybody's stuff is charged. And I would love to have this conversation again. Because I think the world of y'all. I don't think
you didn't hit all your points.
Huh? I did not. I did not. We did not, but it's cool. Because
hey y'all, how about wink wink? How about wink wink? We have this conversation at the Black Comic Book Fest next year. Wink wink.
Erica, that's a great idea, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. I got independent scholar funds, which as you know is nothing. So
okay.
Same here.
Listen, we
can have this conversation.
Okay.
I do want to have this conversation again, whether we do it online and then eventually we'll do it out in the wild together. I would love to continue this conversation. Because I do find it fascinating the way you guys have been thinking and the things that you now have me wanting to read and come back. to expand on this. So one last time, where can everybody find you? What is something you're working on, you're about to send out into the world that you want everybody to support? We will start with Raven, and then we'll make our way around.
All right, y'all. You can find me most reliably on my website, www.ravenksstringfield.com. That's usually where you can get in contact with me. I'm on Instagram. I don't be too serious over there at Raven Camilla. I'm also on Threads at Raven Camilla. I'm really not on there because I get so stressed out. All I do is go on there for like 5 seconds, take a screenshot, and then start screaming in Keisha's text messages. So I don't be over there. I do not be over there. I am on Substack. It's like raven.substack.com, whatever the thing is. I love a blog. I've been blogging online for 10 years. Everything has always been free. I got a lot of stuff I got to get off my chest. And like, there's only so many voice memos my friends will listen to. So you can find me over there. I think the thing that I'm kind of most excited about is my adult Southern Gothic story, which is not about ghosts necessarily, but it is deeply about death, and a line of Black women's, Virginia Black women's relationship to death. So that's what I'm working on. A draft of it exists. Is it good? No. Oh, and there's Shy. Dang
There
it.
was Shy, yeah.
You should have let Shy go first.
I should have. My bad.
That's okay. We can shout him out right now at Conjuring
Yes.
Literacy. I think on most,
Yep.
at Conjuring Literacy.
At Conjuring Literacy, he is on everything. He is at Clark Atlanta. If you ever want to, see him out there, he is almost always. Okay, he's back on. Hold on, let me get him back in. Okay.
What's up, Keisha? What up, that bitch fucking in the room? Okay.
Oh my God.
Is it me? It's on me?
Yeah, it's on you.
Yeah,
It's on you.
Hi. My name is Shaheem. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Conjuring Literacy. I'm on Threads at Never Been Shy. I occasionally talk on. No, I don't. I don't talk anything on Substack, but I do have 2 short stories on Substack right now that you can read. My Substack is Conjuring Literacy. What I'm working on. So one thing that I'm working on, I can't talk about. But just stay tuned for our announcement because y'all say y'all want Black men in bookstores. So I mean, you might have that. And the other thing, I'm writing my dissertation. Yeah, that's the main thing that I'm doing is writing my dissertation. I guess I could silent plug at the Vanguard. So if anybody's here or who watches in the future is in DC, go to the At the Vanguard exhibition at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I was a part of the planning that exhibition as well as the digital archive that's supposed to be coming out this summer. I'm more involved in the digital archive, so stay attuned to that. So you can see about 300 objects from the Clark Atlanta University Art Museum collection that I personally photographed, as well as collections from Tuskegee, Texas Southern, FAMU, and Jackson State.
I feel like Shy needs like a warning if you're gonna engage with him.
I can't hear y'all, so if y'all talking, I can't hear you, but I'm gonna mute now because I'm done. Yay!
Okay.
Yo, that's so funny.
Oh my gosh. See, I was just gonna say I feel
and I'm
like
also
Shy needs to
getting tapped to go. I had a hard stop at 8 o'clock, but I stayed with y'all because I love y'all.
A hard stop at 8 o'clock is 8:30.
I know, and I'm now being looked at like I'm crazy because I got somewhere to go. So bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Truly nuts behavior.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Erica, your turn.
Now, how the hell am I supposed to follow up with that? Okay. All right, here we go. I write comics where, all of the men, and I'm nominated for a Lambda for Best Queer Comics, and I uh, publish on everywhere, but I also have Fabulized Magazine, which is my global fandom intersectional magazine. It's fun. I write hot takes sometime when I'm not exhausted. It used to be a place where like all my forgotten pitches that I thought were valuable go, but now I'm more intentional with what I publish. Um, I also write, like I said, I write comics. I just, introduce my framework, Rust Belt Gothic. And, I'm just being Black and living my best life as best I can. You can find me on fabulizemag.com, and I use IG Fabulized Mag, and I also use Blurty Womanist, and I also on Threads Fabulized Mag. But I'm on Blue Sky as well as Rosa Sparks.
Yes. Oh man. Do I want to talk about myself? Not quite.
Yes, go ahead.
Honestly, the only thing I want to say about myself is that, I moderate panels. I love doing that the most. I love seeing how people think and how they, expand on the things I've been trying to piece together in my own mind. I moderate panels. I've done panel programming. I am trying to write. We'll see how that goes. I do have a literary blog that where I talk about, I have reviews, author interviews in both the comic and book spaces where we talk about speculative fiction and how we use that to once again reimagine this crappy world. That look, I don't like it.
I has this like really stressful like tendency to undersell herself. I think Keisha is probably like, and I'm gonna do it for you because I think like people need to understand like what an important and valuable part of like the cultural criticism world you are. So I really value. No, I do. I really value the work on the Blurred Library, like the curated list, like the analysis of the books that you're reading, the introduction of new titles and authors to people who wouldn't ordinarily be like exposed to these things. You uplift Black women comic artists on the daily with the Pink Riot Comic Show, which happens live every Thursday at 8 p.m.
I forgot
Eastern
to say that.
You absolutely did, and you knew I was going to come on here and tell everybody about Pink Riot.
No, okay, you got me on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully soon, if you're not already reading Keisha's writing on the Blurred Library, hopefully you'll see it on some other platforms. I've been harassing her to like send me some stuff at Midnight and Indigo, which by the way, if there are any Black women speculative writers in the chat, I didn't plug this as well. But Midnight and Indigo does have a yearly speculative issue. So if you are looking for somewhere to place some speculative stories, please send them to us. We would love to take a look. I myself am a nonfiction editor, and so I am more looking at essays. So if you would like to send something directly to me, I'm looking at essays. But Keisha, like we'll be seeing her all over the place. We gonna have Dr. Keisha soon. Like if you don't know, now you know.
Let's hope. That is the goal. That truly is the goal. I'm trying to be Dr. Parks in this bitch. If only just to become an adjunct and be able to like travel and do the things I'm already doing, but like with funding. Hopefully we'll see.
We gotta bring back the patrons. Like we need to bring back the sponsors. Like rich people need something to do with their time and money because they just destroying the earth along with us with them.
Basically, I mean, to be honest, the things I've heard about patrons, especially the ones Renee Hurston had, I'm not too fond of that, to be honest. But I would like someone to be like, here's a certain amount of money, do what you want with no oversight. I would love that For real, for real.
I mean, I think I think largely the way that we have kind of gotten around that is a lot of working artists have found like universities have, I think, largely
Fair.
taken the place of like what patrons have done, but unfortunately like all you have to do is like say the wrong, like we love your art
Yeah.
until it's about us, or like you tell the students to, you like teach the students to ask too many good questions, and then you're like, oh hold on, wait, I don't know if I like this. So you know,
Yeah, I really just want to be given money and left alone. That would be wonderful.
same.
But but yeah, I definitely would love to do this again and, you know, get through all the questions. But I really did enjoy what we talked about today. I guess this is where I say to everyone still here and listening and all of that, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the everything that came in the chat. Y'all are fantastic. Didn't get to them all, but next time I got y'all. And yeah, this is where we sign out.
Thank you. I appreciate being in y'all company. Y'all are the best.
You too.
Love
Later.
you, Erica.
Thank you. I love